Okay, for this video, we have to start with wetting our paper. So this is going to be a wet on wet technique. So I'm just taking my wide brush and lightly kind of coating the paper. So it'll be all ready to go. So I'm going to be mixing a couple shades of green, and there's no right or wrong way to do this. It really just depends on the color that you're going for. I wanted kind of a washed out, kind of like a hunter green or a moss green combined. And I also added in a little bit of gray and black. And you'll see me just dipping in and kind of picking up different colors. And we want this to be a light wash. And if you notice the way I'm holding the paintbrush, I want to hold it so that the tip of the paintbrush is facing up. And then I'm going to use just plain water to drag out the color to let it fade. We're trying to create the look of fog. So we want to make sure that we have a nice white area that looks like it gradually faded from the green. So as I'm moving into areas that I want to define, like the ones that are closer to us, you can see that I'm going to use the tip of my paintbrush to create the look of trees by just pressing upward with the paintbrush. And it's going to give the effect of the tips of the trees, giving a little bit of a point to the picture. Now, the trick with doing a painting where you're trying to create the look of fog is that we're trying to give layers to the painting. So these first few layers are not going to be overly dark or overly defined. These are supposed to be areas that are in the background or areas that the fog has kind of taken over. So that's why we're using a wetter brush and working on that wet paper. Now, when we do the trees that are going to be closer to us, we're going to get a little bit drier with our paintbrush so that they look like they're closer to us. You can see what I'm doing is I'm creating the look of some closer trees by giving them a little bit more definition. The tips of the trees also may be sticking out from the fog, so you may see more of the look of the actual tree branches and the leaves than you would on the other ones that are deeper into the fog or that are further away from us. Now, there's really no right or wrong for how many layers you can create to this picture or what shades of green. In fact, in another one of my tutorials, I'm going to be showing you how to do the same idea just using one or two colors. So you don't have to feel that you need to have any set of fancy colors or overmix them. It's really up to you. So now you can see for these trees that are closer to me, again, you can tell that it's still pretty wet because you can see the colors start to bleed out, but I'm getting a little bit darker and a little bit more defined. So this is like your second layer going in. So our first layer was very pale, and now I'm working a little bit drier with my brush. I'm not re-wetting it as much, and this is our second layer of trees, so they're going to be a little bit darker. So these have more definition. You're actually going to see a little bit more of their branches. I'm adding in some more layers in the front. And the varying shades of green also help to create the look of different areas of light. As I go in, I'm just using the tip of my paintbrush to kind of go left and right and angle a little bit slightly upward. Now again, we don't really want to do much to the bottom of the trees because that's where the fog is. So we want to really only define the top of the trees. So I start with just the vertical trunk, which is a straight line down. And then again, starting smaller. And they should generally be uneven. And I always tell my students that the more messy and uneven and not perfect a tree is, the more it's going to look realistic. Okay, so now I'm creating a layer that's going to be really close to us. So this one we are actually going to see a lot more of the actual branches. And again, we're starting with that vertical line and then working our way back and forth. The whole trick to this painting is that you're building layers. So you don't necessarily have to get dark right away. If you want to have 5 layers, 4 layers, it's totally up to you. I'm just giving the look of a little bit of some more land down here. And you can add in anything, sticks, you can add in branches. This one I wanted to be a little bit darker, so you can see that the ones that are darker and more detailed are immediately going to jump forward. They're going to be super clear and they are standing in front of the fog. The ones that are softer and in the background, those are going to appear to be a lighter tone. So now I'm just kind of going back over, and again, happy mistakes. Things go wrong. I wanted to add some more fog here, and I realized normally the trick to remove watercolor, if it's still wet enough, is that you can use a wet paper towel to lift the color. But as you can see, it didn't remove all the color because the first layers had already dried. So word to the wise, if you are trying to remove something, it has to be fully wet. So the easiest way to solve a mistake with watercolor is to let that area dry and then to paint over. So you're going to see in a minute that I'm going to start covering this area with darker color. It's a good way to hide my mistake because when I tried to remove it, it didn't work. So when in doubt, don't give up on the painting. Just add another layer. And you can see I'm barely using any water with this color. And I'm getting a nice dark deep color because these I want to make look close to us and they are out of the fog. In the background here I just wanted to add the look of a few more little valleys. So I just go diagonally down with a little bit of a darker gray with the green, just to almost make it look like more little mountains and hills in the background. So gradually just some diagonal lines because you want it to look like the ground is sloping. These are some fun, just small, tiny grass areas. You can add in whatever you like to the front because that's where your tiny, tiny details are going to be. And if you get yourself a really good paintbrush, again, the trick to getting a really, really nice project is to have some really strong paper, good brushes, and good paint. So now for the very, very final pieces that I want to end into this, I want to use my absolute darkest color. So I'm working almost entirely just with black, sometimes adding in a little bit of the green or a little bit of the brown. And again, I've just switched over to a thinner brush, still working with that super dark shade, just to go in and make some really, really deep dark details. Oh boy, tongue twister today. And the finishing touch.